All right, coming at you on Monday night, a busy first day of it's not the new league year yet. That comes on Wednesday. That's when contracts become official. That's when trades become official. But for the 49ers, a lot of people leaving the building and not very many people coming in. The one person who comes in is Luke Farrell, tight end, and I think that acquisition of Farrell, who's a tight end, a blocking tight end, someone who did not catch very many passes, was not part of the offensive game plan necessarily with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but somebody who's a good run blocker, someone who's good in pass protection. It kind of signaled the move and it kind of foreshadowed the move that was going to be happening later. So that is Kyle Juszczyk being released from the 49ers. Also on this night, since I taped my last video, Dre Greenlaw has agreed to terms on a 3-year, $35 million contract with the Denver Broncos. I'll talk more on that later. But I also want to tell you that anytime you hear contract numbers here during this early negotiating period, just be advised that it might not actually be the numbers. Those numbers come from the agents, and you can tell that by the insiders who have the same information basically in the same minute or a minute apart. It's basically the agent putting out the numbers, texting a number of the national reporters on the same text chain. So that's why when it happens basically at the same time. But just going to break down this first day of the open negotiating period. And let's just start off with Kyle Juszczyk, because when the 49ers signed Luke Farrell, what was the thinking? Like, what is that? Why do they need a number two tight end? Well, it's very clear that the 49ers are transitioning from two back, one tight end to one back, two tight ends. And though Farrell doesn't line up much in the backfield, this is a move that kind of signals a shift in personnel. So, as I understand it, just like a year ago at this time, when the 49ers went to Eric Armstead, they said, we're not going to pay you your scheduled salary. Here's the contract we'd like you to sign. They did the same thing with Kyle Juszczyk last year. Eric Armstead said, no, thank you. I'm going to go on the open market. 49ers released him. He ended up signing a nice deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. As I understand it, the 49ers gave Kyle Juszczyk and his representation the opportunity to canvass the NFL, to see what was out there, to see what kind of contract he could get. And then ultimately, they decided we're not going to accept the terms of any new deal. So he will become an unrestricted free agent, able to sign with any team. Is it possible he could return to the 49ers? I suppose so, just because when you think about how few teams use a fullback in their offense, so it is possible that Juszczyk could come back, but I think that's probably unlikely. It looks like after last year when they made him swallow his pride, and then he went out and had a really good season too. It's kind of a blow to the ego. So Kyle Juszczyk will be released, and that's one of many guys who were 49ers when the day started and who are no longer 49ers. One late news item: Mike Silver from The Athletic, who's all over this stuff, very well connected around the NFL. He reports that the 49ers and the Dolphins have essentially made the same offer to edge rusher Joey Bosa. It's going to be a contract where he'd get less than $10 million in this coming season. So the contracts are very similar. Of course, no state income tax in Miami or in Florida. And for the 49ers, they have the allure of having his brother on the team, his younger brother, Nick Bosa. So Joey grew up in Fort Lauderdale, went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School. So that would be his hometown team. Does he go with the hometown or does he go with the family? So we will see what he decides, but it kind of sounds like a decision could be imminent, that maybe the hard negotiating is over. Has similar offers from both teams. So we'll see what's important for Joey Bosa from this point forward. Okay, so the 49ers, the only guy that they re-signed is the running back, Patrick Taylor. that and Luke Farrell coming to the team, but the list of guys who are going is very long. And we talked a lot about some of the other guys. Charvarius Ward goes to the Colts on a big money contract. In fact, 49ers signed him to a 3-year, $40 million deal just 3 years ago. Now he has a 3-year, $60 million deal from the Colts. Aaron Banks goes to Green Bay. Huge contract for him, 4 years, $77 million. Talanoa Hufanga will be teaming up with Dre Greenlaw with the Denver Broncos. Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, the two guys that I thought of the 49ers free agents that they had the best chance to retain. They don't retain either one of them. I'll talk a little bit more about Dre Greenlaw here in a second. Joshua Dobbs goes to the Patriots. No big surprise there. Pretty clear that it just wasn't a good fit with Joshua Dobbs. And so he'll be with another team. Boy, he's bounced around a lot. Jalen Moore, this is how the day started. What it was about, like, it felt like 15 seconds into the open negotiating period. Jalen Moore reported a contract agreement with the Kansas City Chiefs, 2 years, $30 million, to be the left tackle protecting Patrick Mahomes' blind side. And then shortly thereafter, Elijah Mitchell and the Kansas City Chiefs arrive at a contract that'll pay him up to $3.5 million. So that on top of all the other stuff we know, the Deebo Samuel trade to Washington, Javon Hargrave being released, John Feliciano retiring. So let's go back to Dre Greenlaw. The reported numbers on the Dre Greenlaw deal to the Broncos, 3 years, $35 million. I think that what the 49ers experienced last year, they had a number in mind for Dre Greenlaw where it was worth the risk, but at how much risk were they going to take? And so when you think about last season, where the 49ers doled out some money to Brandon Ayuk, to Trent Williams, to Christian McCaffrey. Those were big money deals. McCaffrey, an extension or new contract, converting a lot of non-guaranteed money to guaranteed money. That was done during the offseason. That really didn't cause much of a ripple effect on the team as far as being a distraction. However, Trent Williams was a holdout, missed all of training camp. Brandon Ayuk was a hold in, a huge distraction. The 49ers had several trades worked out that I reported on last summer. Ultimately, he signs a big money deal. What is the common denominator through all those guys? None of them produced at any kind of level due to injuries. So I just don't think the 49ers were willing to spend as much money as the Denver Broncos did on Dre Greenlaw. And again, we don't know the structure of that deal. The numbers, these initial numbers are coming from the agent side. But I think after what the 49ers experienced last year with those injuries to key guys that they signed to big money deals, I just don't think they were going to do that with Dre Greenlaw. So I know someone in the comments said, oh, the 49ers decided to sign a backup tight end over Dre Greenlaw. Well, let's realize here that Luke Farrell, 3 years, about 20 million, as opposed to 3 years for 35 million. And probably the structure of the deal is a little bit different as well. But anyway, 49ers lose a lot by not having Dre Greenlaw. Nick Bosa talked about it late in the season, wants to re-sign. He wanted the 49ers to re-sign Dre Greenlaw. We all know how Fred Warner felt about it. Heck, Nick Bosa said that he spoke to Robert Saleh after he was hired. Nick Bosa told this to Jennifer Lee Chan, my colleague, and Nick said that Robert Saleh was very adamant about getting Dre Greenlaw re-signed. So 49ers won't have Dre Greenlaw on the team this year, so they're going to have to do some things. They got to do some things on the defensive line where they've already lost some people. Yes, they're trying to sign Joey Bosa to a contract, but also at the linebacker position where you have Dre Greenlaw not going to be on the team. The guy that they signed him last year to replace him for a good chunk of the season, Devondre Campbell, he's not on the team. They have D. Winters and Tatum Bethune coming back. Yeah, those guys have potential to be good players, but I do think the 49ers need to do something here in free agency. I don't know if it'll happen on Tuesday or Wednesday when the new league year begins, but will it be the second wave of free agency once the prices drop? Honestly, you look around the league and you see guys like Javon Kinlaw, Aaron Banks, those guys signing huge money deals This was a market where the players made out. And a lot of people ask me when the salary cap rose so much, how's this affect the team? It affects the entire league. Players made out. Players on this first wave of free agency made out big time. But there still are going to be bargains out there. There are going to be guys, good players who aren't going to get that top dollar. That's what the 49ers have to concentrate on. And then also, of course, they do have a lot of draft picks. Someone also asked me about the compensatory formula. How does that work? Well, the 49ers are getting some compensatory picks this year in the 2025 draft, but the stuff that we saw happen on Monday and that will become finalized on Wednesday. That's for the 2026 draft. So right now, Kyle Juszczyk's release doesn't count in any form. That's not part of the compensatory formula. But for the 49ers to lose Dre Greenlaw, Charvarius Ward, Aaron Banks, Talanoa Hufanga, Jalen Moore, and then I don't think that Joshua Dobbs or Elijah Mitchell will count against that formula. So those are some guys right there. I mentioned Greenlaw, that's one. Ward, Banks, Hufanga, potentially more. That's five guys. They signed one in return. So the 49ers are going to get some good draft picks in 2026. But I know nobody cares about 2026 right now. Everybody's focused on 2025. And let's just say this. I don't think this is a teardown. I don't think this is a rebuild. Any team that has Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy and George Kittle and Trent Williams and Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. It's not a rebuild, but I will say this. The 49ers have a lot of work to do to get back to the level that they were a year ago when everybody had them as one of the top teams in the NFC coming off of the Super Bowl loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. So those are the positions. Defensive line, both tackle and defensive end. It's a good draft for that, so the 49ers can address some glaring needs there. They'll be looking at linebacker. I know my mock draft a week or so ago, or a couple weeks ago, I had the 49ers taking Tyler Warren, the Penn State tight end. Now I think part of the reason maybe why the 49ers made this decision to go after Luke Farrell was because they knew that Tyler Warren would not be dropping to them at number 11. They didn't feel like spending the capital to go up and get somebody. My other draft pick, as far as the mock draft goes, Armand Mimbu, the offensive lineman from Missouri. If there's one thing that I learned, or I think what today taught me, was if you draft an offensive lineman and you develop him and he becomes a starter, if you like him, sign him early. Sign him to an extension early. Because when those guys hit the open market, like Jalen Moore did and like Aaron Banks did, those guys are going to freaking cash in. And that's what a couple of 49ers offensive linemen did on Monday. They cashed in with big money deals. And so 49ers have some holes to fill. Left guard could be Ben Barch, could be a draft pick. And then, of course, on the defensive line, where you can never have too many defensive linemen. If you have 10 defensive linemen on your roster, all of them are going to play. All of them are going to contribute. And now linebacker, I guess. 49ers need someone to take over for Dre Greenlaw. Easier said than done. Not only a really good player, but an emotional leader as well. Thanks so much for watching this video. That was your recap from the first day of the open negotiating period. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a comment, leave a like, and that is it for now.